Hundreds of angry New Yorkers taking to the streets to voice one message. They're protesting the construction of a new relief center for the hundreds of migrants arriving in New York City every week.
After a new migrant relief center opened in the parking lot of the Creedmoor Psychiatric Center in Queens, dozens of people showed up to protest that site. Several of the demonstrators taken away into police custody.
This as Governor Hochul and Mayor Adams seem to be at odds over the escalating migrant crisis.
As New York City opens more shelters to house a record-breaking migrant influx.
Close the border.
This morning, there's growing outrage over the city's response.
All right, so it seems like New Yorkers are finally waking up to the migrant crisis. In a sense, finally understanding that there is a problem at the southern border and you can't just have this open border policy to bring everyone in. And this all started because the border states were like, okay, since you guys want to be sanctuary cities, since you guys don't care about border policy, since you guys want to have this let everybody in policy, let's start sending the migrants to you so you can take care of them, so you can spend your state resources and all the money that you have on taking care of migrants. So New York, for instance, got about 100,000 new people from the border that came in within the last year. Now, if you think about it, how many people that is in context? The capital city of New York, which is Albany, has about 100,000 residents. That's it. So New York City has gotten as many migrants as people live in the capital city of New York, which is Albany. So it is an insane amount of people. Now, again, we're talking about clothing these people, housing these people, taking care of these people. There's a lot that goes into it because don't forget, these people can't work, they have no money, and essentially the city is just taking care of them wholesale. But this is where the issue starts hitting the fan because now everyone is blaming each other. So the governor is blaming the mayor. The mayor is blaming the president. And the president is acting like there isn't a problem when there obviously is. So check out the left starting to eat each other alive.
Do you get free Wi-Fi at home? I don't. Do you get free cell phone at home? I don't.
Mayor Eric Adams also facing sharp criticism from a fellow Democrat, Governor Kathy Hochul, whose lawyer sent a scathing letter saying the city faces a serious crisis, but has failed to accept the state's offers of assistance and should do more to act in a proactive manner.
If her observation is that here's some things that you can do differently, we're all in.
But by law, New York City is required to provide temporary housing to anyone who asks for it. And it's hit a new milestone, 100,000 migrants arriving here since last year. More than 58,000 are now in shelters. Officials estimate the cost to city taxpayers will skyrocket to $12 billion by 2025. In Manhattan, the historic Roosevelt Hotel now housing asylum seekers. Mayor Adams is asking the federal government for expedited work permits and has repeatedly blasted the Biden administration for not doing enough. The White House won't say whether it plans to declare a federal state of emergency over immigration, but does point out it's given New York City more than $100 million in aid.
We take this very seriously.
Across the country, other major cities are also struggling with the influx. Massachusetts governor just declared a state of emergency.
We've been expanding and continuing to look for housing and shelter opportunities, and it's unsustainable.
So now, what do you do if you're a citizen of the city of New York? Because your city now is spending millions of dollars in resources on illegal immigration, essentially. And those resources could be going to you, like the person was saying, free Wi-Fi, who wants a free cell phone? They're giving this, they're paying for people to live in hotels. So the citizens now have joined together. You have black citizens, white citizens, Asian citizens. They've all joined together to essentially rebuke the mayor, the Biden administration, and these democratic policies of open borders, and are now getting arrested in civil protests to say, hey, we need to close the border. We need to stop this insanity of pretending like there's no problem at the border when it's now here at our doorstep. Check out what happened.
Migrants, illegals to the back of the line. There are people in foreign countries who have waited years to get in the legal way. Some of them are here today. You got to jump through hoops. You got to take tests. You have to pass certain specifications. Why do these illegal aliens get to jump the queue and jump to the top and front of the line? So today, this is not Republican versus Democrat versus Independent. We're joined together at the hip in solidarity. It's us and we, not I and me. It's Americans versus those who would destroy the America that we know. And today I want you to join me in an act of civil disobedience. When I finish, we're going to block this street.
Obstructing vehicular traffic. You will be placed under arrest on the charge of disorderly conduct. If you do not cooperate and accompany the arresting officer to the prisoner transport vehicle, if you resist arrest, you may be charged with additional crimes.
Oh yeah, this is number 79, and we're going to keep the civil disobedience going until we get Eric Adams and Hochul and Joe Biden to stop this this hot mess of just letting anybody in across the borders and then bringing them into our city and our state. This is not a sanctuary city. There is no law that says so, and this is not a sanctuary state. There is no law. That's a proclamation. We're going to fight to undo that, and then we're going to fight that we take care of Americans first, mostly African Americans, who are in bad shape in this city with an African American mayor. He has forsaken his people, and we will not let him forget that.
Now, he's right. The people most affected by these open border policies are the people in the inner city, or the people who are less fortunate, or the people who depend on city services and state services to survive. Now those services are going to other people. And that's why you see, when you saw the marching, you saw black people, you saw white people, you saw Asian people. The communities coming together and saying, we have to stop this insanity. Now, here is ultra-left-wing Democratic Congressman Richie Torres, and even he's calling out the Biden administration. He is I'm going to go down with the ship for Biden. But now he has been confronted when he did an interview, and listen to what he says about the border crisis and what needs to happen, because don't forget, his community is the Bronx, and they are now protesting these rush of illegal immigrants taking up all of the city's resources.
We also talk about something else that's kind of irking New Yorkers, the migrant situation. Yeah. And as you know, the mayor has begged the president of the United States. The governor has begged the president of the United States. Why isn't the president of the United States listening?
Look, for me, I'm frustrated with the president's hands-off approach to the migrant crisis. It's overwhelming the city. I think 90,000 people have entered the intake system, 50,000 people remain in the city's care. You know, our country should be a land of opportunity for immigrants, for asylum seekers, but that burden has to be distributed equitably across the country. The failure of our immigration system cannot fall solely on the shoulders of New York.
What needs to be done? I mean, do they have to stop at the borders? I mean, Congressman, I mean, we're getting, and people are freaking out because they're putting migrants in Creedmoor. That's a 1,000-bed tent facility. That's going to fill up by the end of the week. We're getting 2,500 migrants a week in New York.
So I think first we need more emergency funding for New York City. The Department of Homeland Security has only appropriated $140 million, which falls catastrophically short of the $12 billion hole that the migrant crisis is likely to leave in the city budget. And second, we need work authorization. The migrants who are here want to work.
They're already working. Do you see the e-bikes outside the hotels and tents?
But not everyone has the authorization to work.
Well, I know, but they're working.
And that would be, and work authorization would enable the migrants to provide for themselves.
Why can't we say work? We're not hearing anything from the president of the United States. How much longer do we wait?
The president should issue an executive order granting work authorization. And it could be done without Congress.
So by authorizing that executive order, is that almost saying, hey, I do have a problem in my hands and I might be taking some of the blame because I'm not doing anything? Is there a politic game going on behind this as to why he might not be addressing this? Because it's not going to look good for him as he runs for re-election.
Look, I mean, I would leave those questions to the White House. I'm not going to speculate about his political motives, but most people prefer to avoid the issue of immigration because it's politically the most divisive in Washington, D.C. But the crisis is overwhelming New York, and it's unsustainable.
Do you think this could be bad for the Democrats? I was reading something in the Times where they mentioned it, and you know they love their Democrats.
For me, it's not about Democrat or Republican. It's about doing what's best for the city of New York.
You're right.
You know, I want to give my opinion about this. I think this is a great thing that's happening. Let me explain. Do I feel sorry for the migrants and their plight of trying to come to this nation and be a part of the system? I do. I feel for them. But I am happy that this is happening in cities like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, all these extremely liberal cities who, you know, were sanctuary cities and had these open the border, right? Because don't forget, New York is thousands of miles away from the border. So they were up on their high horse screaming, oh, you know, you're racist if you don't want these people to come over, you know, using the identity politics, thinking that the problem was someone else's. As long as it was thousands of miles away, you could sit in your White Castle and say whatever you want. So I think what the Texas governor and the Arizona governor and the border states did made sense. Sit them up there. Ship them up to the places where they say they want sanctuary cities and they have the money to spend for this, because I don't think they really understand what's going on. Now that's happened. And now the easy solution to all this is to have a strong border policy, stop people from coming in, and make it so the people at Texas and Arizona, if you stop the problem there at the border, if you fund stopping the problem there, then you don't have the problem downstream. Now, I think Mayor Adams sees that. I think the governor sees that, and I think Richie Torres sees that, right? Everybody sees that that's what you need to do. But the political part about it for Biden doesn't allow him to do it, right? Because if he does that politically, he's going to take a hit, right? He doesn't want to become the deporter-in-chief. He wants to be opposite of Trump. But I think what he's doing in New York is forcing New Yorkers into the Republican hands. That's why during the last election, New York had a whole bunch of Democratic seats flip Republican. And I think that's going to be a trend, because as more and more people see more immigrants on the streets, as you see in these pictures, more immigrants being arrested for crimes and things of that nature, people are just going to start waking up. And as you saw in those protests, those were black people, those were Hispanic people, those were white people, those were Asian people, all understanding that this is now a problem that's affecting us every single day. So hopefully those people in New York wake up and say, hey, we got to get these Democrats out, because they are the ones causing the problem. Right? Their policies in Massachusetts, those were the ones who were screaming, let them all in, let them all in. Now it's a state of emergency. So part of me, and I'm just going to be 100% with you, part of me says good, let them suffer, because it was okay when the good people in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico, it was okay when they were suffering, but now it's not okay when you're suffering. And now for the people who voted for Biden and wanted these policies, you're stuck with them. I think this is going to be destructive for Democratic aspirations in the next election, because no matter how much you vilify Trump, no matter how much you do all this, some Republicans are going to run against Biden. And it's going to be hard for, I think, those New Yorkers who are suffering now and are probably going to be suffering then to pull the lever for another Democrat, because now you can't scare them up with the whole they're racist against immigrants. Because now I think people are going to say, well, they're not racist against immigrants. They're understanding the reality of the situation. And that's what we need to stop, because people vote based on the needs that they have now, not on future aspirations. So if this is still a problem on election day, I bet you the map is going to be very, very strong for Republicans. Now, tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. Tell me if I'm just totally going off the rails here, because I try to read all the comments and I appreciate you guys at least keeping me honest and letting me know how you feel. So with that said, my name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Peace.